This is CBS News Bay Area with Juliette Goodrich.
And I'm Ann Makovic in for Juliette. Happy New Year, but 2024 is getting off to a rough start for BART. One of its trains derailed and caught fire this morning. It happened near the Orinda station, and here's a look at the aftermath. Almost 9 hours after the incident, BART is just now starting to remove the damaged train with a crane. A viewer sent us this video taken just after the derailment. It shows smoke pouring out of that car there. BART says 9 people were taken to the hospital with injuries, but this all could have been much worse had it been a normal commute day. Bus bridges have been set up, but right now there is no train service between the Walnut Creek and Rock Ridge stations. BART is trying to make repairs before people return back to work tomorrow. Our Kelsey Thorud is following the operation to get the damaged train off the tracks, which could impact drivers as well. Kelsey, what's up over there?
Hey, Ann, yeah, we're out here at the scene just off the side of Highway 24. You can actually see the derailed train here behind me. It appears that they're currently lifting that derailed train, trying to get it back onto the tracks right now with that crane. Now, Caltrain's crews have shut down the 2 left lanes of eastbound Highway 24. They're now have that crane up and lifting the train car back onto the track, where they will then move the train from the scene. Now, this is an undertaking that officials say will take around 6 hours from start to finish. Train service, as you said, in this area has been shut down since the train derailed at around 9 this morning. Our John Ramos was out here earlier today, where he spoke with several passengers who were actually on the train at the time of the crash.
Man, it just felt like a crash and smoke everywhere in the car, and I thought we were going to blow up. I thought we were going to die.
The train only got about 1,000 yards from the station when the driver was told by the command center that a piece of track switching equipment called an interlocking wasn't working, and instructed her to switch the track manually.
The train operator did offboard the train and crank the interlocking and then reboarded the train.
Then the train started moving, and just heard loud popping, and just saw orange sparks and then flames.
Enrique Gonzalez was one of the passengers on the second car. After he got off it, he took this video of the train on fire.
I was sitting in the window seat right above where the actual fire started, and it took me a while to realize exactly what was going on. I heard all the popping, and I seen the flame just shoot up right, the window where I was sitting.
The train began filling with smoke, and passenger Leah Burrell explained what happened next.
And then you see the orange and the red and the orange and the smoke, and like it didn't stop. And then we all got up and ran to go to the next car to at least run. And so, you know how a car smokes and then explodes? We didn't want that to happen, so we're like, we just got to run for our lives, literally.
People start coming in, they're like, there's a fire, the train's on fire. Nobody said anything, there was no announcement, and then they opened the doors and we had to jump out onto the tracks on the side. It was scary.
The passengers all had to walk back along the rocky track to the station, and Orinda Fire reports that 9 people were taken to the hospital for minor injuries. The BART spokesman said a crane was en route to lift the 2 damaged cars back onto the track, and 2 eastbound lanes of Highway 24 would be closed for about 6 hours for that operation. Meanwhile, Leah and her friends hope they are set for the rest of the year.
It better be the biggest thing that happens in 2024. I don't want no more smoke or booms.
Now back out here on the scene, you can see that the work with this crane is well underway. The crane arrived here on scene right around 4:30, so there is still a long way to go until the train will be moved and the scene cleared. Now, BART officials say crews have already separated the train into 3 sections: the 6-car section at the back of the train that never derailed, the train car that derailed, and finally the lead car. They say once the crane is able to lift the derailed car back onto the tracks, crews will tow the train to Concord Yard and begin inspecting the tracks for damage.
You know, the main thing is to get that train out of the way and to be able to assess the damage to the track, if there is any, and to make sure that everything's safe to go again.
Now, officials say they still do not have a firm timeline on when train service will resume for this section. They say it really depends on what type of damage the derailment and fire did to the tracks. They say they hope to be able to have full operations back up and running by sometime tomorrow, but encourage anyone hoping to ride BART in this area to check their website for updates before heading out tomorrow.
So our advice for people who are expecting to use BART tomorrow morning is to get up a little bit earlier, check the websites, see what the current situation is. Obviously, we'll be working throughout the night to update it and keep it updated, but I can't tell you at 4:30, 5 o'clock tonight whether we're going to have service or not definitively. But we will return to service as soon as it's safe to do so.
Now, officials say they don't believe the two left lanes of Highway 24 will be closed as long as the train service. They are expecting to reopen these lanes once this crane gets this train back on the tracks and then is able to get out of here. So that's good for drivers coming through this area. If you are someone, though, that is hoping to take BART, as Jim Allison said there's still no specific deadline as to when that service will reopen, but they are keeping that bus bridge from Walnut Creek to Rockridge open for people who are trying to commute tomorrow, even if the train is not running at that time.
But that can be a little sticky, as we know. And when people hear about trouble on BART, a lot of them decide to drive instead. So even drivers could end up with some adverse effects for all of this. We'll keep our eye on it. Thanks for that, Kelsey. And you might remember another BART train derailed back in 2022. That was on that same yellow line between the Pleasant Hill and Concord stations. BART had blamed that on a heat wave that caused a curve in the tracks. Well, stay with us for the latest on the situation at the Orinda station. We are monitoring the repairs. We're going to have more tonight on our 11 o'clock newscast. One person was killed during a New Year's celebration on Treasure Island. This happened just after 12:30 this morning. People at the scene told us a man lit a fireworks fuse that was supposed to have a delay, but they said the delay did not work and the firework exploded immediately after being lit. San Francisco police say when officers got there, they tried to give him first aid, but he died at the scene. Meanwhile, firefighters in Oakland knocked down a fire under 880. The fire department calling it a debris fire. You can see all that charred wood under the freeway. No word officially on how this fire started, nor if anybody was hurt. It was a New Year's Day farewell for a restaurant in Berkeley that's been a staple in the community for more than 4 decades. Homemade Cafe is the name. It's the place where everybody got fed, even those who couldn't pay for it. Our Jose Martinez talked with the owner on this bittersweet day.
I'm here in Berkeley where, as you can see behind me, dozens of people came out to enjoy one last meal at Homemade Cafe, a restaurant that's saying goodbye after 45 years. It's the end of an era for a beloved small cafe in Berkeley.
It's sad. People have asked me how I feel today. The overall emotion is just sad.
A tough day for Colin Doran. He's been running Homemade Cafe for 12 years, right here at the corner of Sacramento Street and Dwight Way, carrying a local legacy that first opened its doors 45 years ago.
It's like I grew up. I ate here as a kid, moved away, came back, bought it from the original owners, worked here for many years. So I guess I'm seeing its full cycle.
But even though locals love to come here, he says things are too complicated to stay open.
As much as I guess that's some of the frustrating part. And it's not, it's just the reality of today. We've been busy on the weekends all the time because of, changing economies. There's no more one-income families. No one comes, it's a lot harder for people to come and eat Monday through Friday during the week, which you need to do to sustain the business. The weekends can take care of something, but not everything.
Yet, he says his favorite part was helping out people through a program he created called Everybody Eats, giving out free breakfast for people who could not afford to pay for a meal, thanks to donations from other customers.
It's been one of the most rewarding experiences I could have ever had, just in terms of the relationships, the people I've met, feeding over 5,000 people that couldn't afford a meal this past year, all of those things.
And this New Year's Day, he was able to see that love back.
It's great food, and their Everybody Eats program was worthy of support. So I really value that. Sorry to see it close as a chapter, but hope good things are in store for them.
And Colin tells me he's not done. His business is just changing forms.
I'm not going to have the Homemade Cafe as it exists now. It's not going to exist, but I have several ideas to keep things going. I may try our Everybody Eats program. I have some ideas about maybe making a nonprofit and even making it, national and allowing other restaurants, to make to contribute.
And Colin tells me he's going to continue with his nonprofit work, but today he's taking a break.
A well-deserved break. Well, at least half a dozen people have died after a 7.5 magnitude earthquake hit Japan today. It hit just after 4 p.m. local time, about 180 miles or so northwest of Tokyo. Yikes. Yeah, that is video taken inside a building in Toyama City that's just over 50 miles from the epicenter. Dozens of buildings collapsed. So far, there have been at least 14 aftershocks. At this point, it's still unclear exactly how many people were hurt, and we still don't know the extent of the damage.
And suddenly, it get pretty strong earthquake, and the car is shaking, and so everybody was panicked that time.
Japanese officials initially issued tsunami warnings and ordered hundreds of thousands of people to evacuate. Those warnings were later downgraded to advisories. So far, none of the country's nuclear power plants are reporting any irregularities, and officials say we are also not going to see any impact from this here in California. Back here in the Bay, protesters spent New Year's Day sending a message to Representative Nancy Pelosi. And dozens of people there showing up outside of Pelosi's San Francisco home today, calling on the former House Speaker to support a ceasefire in Gaza. They brought drums, megaphones, and other noisemakers, saying they will not allow Pelosi to ignore them. The Israeli military, meantime, has intensified its offensive in Gaza recently. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the war, which began after the brutal attack by Hamas on October 7th, will continue for many more months. Today, the Hamas-run health ministry said nearly 22,000 people have been killed in Gaza since the war began, and many more are wounded. But the Israeli military did confirm today that it plans to begin withdrawing thousands of troops from Gaza. That is something the U.S. has been pushing for. So California is also lifting its ban on cruising, something that's already in effect in San Jose and Sacramento. So lowriders can freely show off their customized classic cars without worrying about being stopped. Also today, California's minimum wage is increasing to $16 per hour, thanks to a state law that requires adjustment for inflation. It's already $18 in San Francisco. And new protections for workers who use cannabis off the clock. A new law prohibits employers from asking about an applicant's prior cannabis use or discriminating based on cannabis use away from the workplace. But the law does not apply to everyone. It does not apply to construction workers nor federal workers. And major retailers in California now required to have gender-neutral toy aisles. The law applies to retailers that have a physical store in the state and at least 500 employees. Stores that don't comply could face a $250 fine for the first violation. Well, the new year can certainly be a time for reflection and hope when a lot of people set personal goals. We went out to Lake Merritt today to hear people's resolutions and thoughts on the new year.
If I make a resolution, I would probably break it. So just the way it is good enough for me.
The first thing, is getting back in shape, health and fitness, hence why I'm walking around the lake. So, yeah, that's the main one.
Every Monday I have to tell myself that I'm making a new start, that I'm trying to do better. I'm always trying to improve something.
So we all know how these New Year's resolutions normally go, usually by the wayside within a matter of weeks. So how do you make them stick? Mandy Gaither has some useful tips that could help us actually reach our goals.
From exercising more to eating better. If you're looking to make a change in the new year, you're not alone, but bad habits can be hard to shift.
Change is not like a light switch. It is a process.
Clinical psychologist Susan Alberts with Cleveland Clinic says the first way to help make resolutions stick is to be specific about our goals.
Our brains love to know the direction that we are going. So instead of saying, I want to exercise more, make a specific goal, such as 20 minutes of walking a day. This is going to make you much more successful in completing this goal.
Albert says to also be realistic. Setting goals that aren't sustainable can make resolutions fall flat.
This is because we tend to set behaviors that are too different from where we are at this very moment. Anticipating obstacles. This is a helpful strategy for continuing resolutions.
Albert says stopping a behavior is harder than starting one. So instead of trying not to eat any more junk food, she says to try setting a goal to eat more fruits and veggies. And finally, link a new behavior to an existing one.
For example, if you drink coffee every morning, but you want to start exercising, link the exercise to drinking the coffee. Have it be the very next behavior that you do.
Oh no, I need the coffee before the workout. Another tip, she says, set resolutions with other people to help everybody stay on the same page throughout the year. Accountability.
We loved it. First time doing it, yeah.
Would you do it again?
Yes, every year.
Today's actually the perfect day for it because it's sunny, low wind, and the waves aren't too crazy. So it couldn't be better.
The water was really chilling, bracing, but not. You get used to it once you're in it.
Awesome, awesome. Really cold, but not prohibitive.
After the plunge, some people took part in a naked bike ride down the Great Highway. So very San Francisco, right, Paul? And finally tonight, the Bay Area's New Year baby. Take a look at that little guy. That is Praneel, born at Kaiser in San Francisco. As far as we can tell, he was the first baby born in the Bay Area in 2024. Well, the CBS Evening News is coming up next with Major Garrett in for Nora. Again, Happy New Year and have a good first night of the year.